The kitchen smelled heavy, thick with the scent of roast beef. It was the kind of smell that makes your stomach ache if you haven't eaten all day. My little boy, Noah, tugged gently at my sleeve. His voice was small, almost too soft to hear. "Mama," he whispered, "I'm hungry." I knelt down and brushed his hair back from his forehead. I forced a smile that I didn't feel. My heart was breaking, but I didn't want him to see. "I know, baby," I said softly. "Just wait. We'll get you something soon." But when I looked toward the table, I saw the truth. The plates were already being set, and not for us. My sister Kayla walked in, her face painted with shiny makeup, her smile stretched wide. She carried a steaming dish as if she were showing off a trophy. Her twins, 5 years old, clapped and squealed, their shiny shoes tapping the floor in excitement. At the head of the table sat Dad, his hand wrapped around a bottle of beer, grinning like a king. Mom stood beside him, knife in one hand and fork in the other, cutting thick slices of beef and laying them on Kayla's children's plates. The juice ran down across their potatoes, the smell filling the room. Noah held on to me tighter. His little stomach growled, but I was the only one who noticed. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. "Mom," I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can he have a piece? Just a small one. He hasn't eaten all day." The room went still. The only sound was Kayla's twins giggling. Mom lifted her eyes slowly, narrowing them at me. And then, before I could even take another breath, her hand cracked across my face twice. The slap echoed in the kitchen. My cheek burned hot, the sting sharper than fire. I staggered back, clutching my face. Noah gasped, his small hand clinging to mine. "Why feed trash?" Mom hissed, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Why give food to your boy when your sister's children deserve it more?" Kayla laughed, her fork hovering in the air. "Oh, Mom, that was perfect. Finally, she knows her place." Dad took a long swig of beer, shaking his head with a chuckle. "You've got some nerve asking for more after everything we already give you. Be grateful you're even sitting at this table." Noah's little voice broke the silence. It was tiny, but strong enough for everyone to hear. "I'm not trash," he whispered, his lip trembling as tears welled in his eyes. Kayla's twins pointed and shouted, "Trash boy! Trash boy!" They chanted like it was a song, laughing, clapping, enjoying every second of his pain. I froze. Their laughter mixed with my mother's slap, my father's sneer, and my sister's cruel smile. "Stop it!" I cried, my voice breaking. But the laughter grew louder. Kayla leaned back in her chair, satisfied. Mom carved another slice of beef and placed it on Kayla's plate. "This is for the children who matter," she said coldly. "Not for leeches." Her words cut deeper than the slap. I wanted to scream, to throw the food across the room, to make them see how cruel they were. But then I felt Noah's tiny hand squeeze mine. His voice cracked through my storm. "Mama, let's just go." And so I did. I turned and walked away, silent, my cheek burning, my pride shattered. Behind me, laughter spilled again, their joy fed by my pain. That night, in our small room, I shut the door, slid down against it, and pulled Noah into my arms. His little body shook, and I held him tight until he fell asleep. But I could not sleep. The smell of roast beef still filled the air, mocking me. My face still burned, but what hurt most were her words. Trash. Not worth feeding. Not even equal to a dog. As I stared at the shadows on the wall, something inside me shifted. If they thought I was trash, then I had nothing left to lose. And if I had nothing left to lose, then I had everything to take. The days after blurred together, but the sting never faded. Not from my cheek. Not from the words. At breakfast the next morning, Kayla sat at the table in a silk robe, yawning as if she had worked hard all night. Mom placed bacon and eggs in front of her and her twins. Noah sat at the corner of the table with a bowl of watery oatmeal. "Where's mine?" I asked quietly. Mom didn't turn. "Eat scraps. That's what trash does." Kayla smirked. "Honestly, Mom, why even give her a chair? She takes up space that should be mine." Her twins giggled. "Trash doesn't need a chair." Dad walked in, buttoning his shirt. He grabbed Kayla's toast and stuffed it into his mouth. "She should be grateful we don't feed her outside with the dog." Noah looked up, his voice trembling. "Mama. I'm not a dog." My throat closed. My hands shook. But I stayed silent. But silence is not weakness. While they laughed, I was watching. I noticed Kayla's obsession with her phone, how every like, every comment mattered more than life. Without people's approval, she was nothing. I noticed Dad's pride, how he puffed his chest when neighbors came, bragging about being the strong father of a successful family. But if even one crack showed, he would crumble. And Mom, her weakness was her image. She wanted the world to believe she was perfect, selfless, adored, the glue that held the family together. If people saw her cruelty, that mask would break. At night, while Noah slept, I wrote everything down. Every cruel word. Every slap. Every insult. Every laugh at my child's expense. I wasn't just keeping memories. I was sharpening knives made of truth. At another dinner, Mom looked at me and smirked. "You're quieter these days." "Good. Maybe you're finally learning your place." I looked her straight in the eye. And I smiled. It rattled her. Kayla frowned. "What are you smiling about?" "Just thinking," I said. Dad narrowed his eyes. "About what?" I leaned back, holding Noah's hand under the table. "About how fast things change." The room fell silent. The next family dinner, Mom called it tradition. For me and Noah, it had always been a ritual of humiliation. But this time, I said yes. The house smelled of roasted chicken, golden potatoes, warm bread. Kayla's twins grinned, pointing at Noah's bowl of rice. "Trash boys' dinner." Laughter filled the room. Kayla clapped her hands. "Perfect. He finally knows his role." I waited. I let their smugness rise. And then, I placed my hands flat on the table. "Not tonight." The room froze. I stood, and lifted the covered dish I had brought. No one had asked about it. I set it in the middle of the table and lifted the lid. Inside were torn clothes Noah had outgrown, shoes with holes, receipts of scraps I had bought while they feasted. Kayla laughed nervously. "What is this? Trash in a bowl?" "Exactly," I said. "The trash you left us with. And now you get to eat it." Gasps filled the room. Neighbors I had invited in secret stared in shock. I turned to them. "You slapped me for asking to feed my son. You called him trash. You starved us while worshipping Kayla's children. Look at them now. Look at what they did." Noah's voice rose, trembling but clear. "Grandma hit Mama. Grandpa laughed. Auntie called me trash." The neighbors gasped. Whispers filled the air. Kayla's fiancé, Tyler, stood abruptly. His face was pale, his jaw tight. "You let your mother slap her? You laughed while your nephew was called trash?" His voice cut the air. Kayla stammered, "Tyler, it's not." But he pushed his chair back. "We're done." He stormed out, the door slamming louder than any slap. Kayla screamed, mascara streaking her face. Mom's spoon clattered to the floor. Dad slumped in his chair, powerless under the weight of disgusted stares. I gathered Noah into my arms. "You wanted him to see me crawl," I said softly. "Tonight he saw you crawl instead." And I walked out. The house that once rang with laughter was left in silence. A heavy silence that would never leave them. Please like and subscribe for more videos. Also comment where you're watching from.